Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, CEO of the experience agency, The Flash. Each week, I bring on a different business leader who's doing some fantastic work. And this week's episode is no different. I am so excited to have Leslie Short, who's the owner of the Cavu Group. She's phenomenal, multifaceted, and is just brilliant. We're going to have a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Leslie.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Oh, hanging out my tin can, not leaving it ever.
Ever. We're never leaving.
Okay, it's all right. I'm fine with that. As I said, I'm an introvert, so I actually don't mind being inside. Other folks are losing their minds. Me, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm okay as well. I work out of home. I have a full home office, unless I'm in a client's office. So I'm good, and you do what you do. I have 3 different, stations set up to work from, in the sun, not in the sun, in the light. You take a tour, you make it happen.
You just gotta make it work. So even though we're in the middle of a pandemic and trapped inside, the podcast does not change. And the first question does not change. So, Leslie, what was your first job?
My first job was as a classical ballet dancer. I was chosen at the age of 7, turned professional at the age of 12. So, and that was my career. I started right in. I jumped right in.
At 7?
Yes. So I was born and raised in New York. At that time in New York, they really had amazing art programs in schools. And I was chosen to dance a scarf dance with Ali Kunji, a dance company. And I remember being on stage. I remember them speaking to my mother after asking, could they train me, that they saw something. And I remember my mother saying, no, we're moving to New Jersey. So unfortunately we can't. Yeah, number one, I don't want to go to New Jersey. Sorry, Jersey folks. And I always say I got shipped off to New Jersey. As blessings always happen when things are meant to be, we moved a couple houses down from a retired dancer who saw me outside playing. Came to my parents and said, Pennsylvania Ballet Company is auditioning little girls to be trained as classical ballet dancers. Do you think your daughter would want to go? And my parents said, you're going to have to ask her. And she came to me and I was like, sure. I really didn't have a clue.
You were 7.
I was 7. But then what was said to me, well, I don't want to get your hopes up because they don't usually accept little Black girls to train, but I see something in you. And went to the audition and, hundreds of girls, and my mother couldn't drive because we had just moved to New Jersey. My dad was building the town we moved into. That's why we actually moved there. He's an architect and builder. So that was the whole purpose. And so he couldn't take the time to drive me. So the next door neighbor took me up to Pennsylvania, did the first audition, was called back for the second audition. The third audition was 30. They narrowed it down to 30 little girls. They put us in a room and stretched our bodies, and then they watched us play. And nothing has changed much in my life. So I, at that point, thought I had invented what we now know as a jeté, the split in the air. And I had all the little girls like, follow me, follow me. And I was running my own class as they were observing. Of course. Not much has changed. I go in and let's make this happen. And I received the call back. Out of 30, they were choosing 3 to train, and I was one of the 3 that was chosen. So, yeah. I almost didn't make it, though, my first ballet class. Because my teacher, who is amazing, Ms. Hart, said to me, you have to take your jewelry off. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
What?
Again,
No.
I'm 7. And I had African bangles that had been blessed by our next door neighbor when we left New York. And I was like, no, I don't. Why would I take them off? They're blessings. And she convinced me to leave them on top of the piano, and I could watch them during class, but then I had to take them off.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. At 7, Leslie was Leslie. Okay, so at 7, you're teaching other little girls to do jump splits. Um, what is the next phase in this story after that?
I mean,
Because it's like, I feel like it's a journey. So, how do we get to be having our chat today in our quarantine boxes?
yeah, it's crazy. You know, I've been very, very blessed. I've had great opportunities. I've also worked my butt off. You know, I turned professional at 12, where I was at, you know, when I say that, I was getting a check for dancing, doing Nutcracker season, and working with 3 or 4 different companies. And by 15, I was back in New York on scholarship at the Joffrey Ballet, and I was living in boarding houses. And, you know, that was my career. I was touring and I was going to school, and I was literally working with 3 and 4 companies at the same time between school and touring. And, you know, did my career, spent 10 and a half years in Europe dancing. You know, I'm jumping far ahead for that, but, you know, played Josephine Baker for her anniversary, even had that opportunity, and lived in Japan, where I ended up retiring from dance. I had kind of retired from ballet, but was still dancing theater and TV and film and commercials, and saw the world twice because of dancing. And in Japan, decided I was going to retire, end up opening up a theater, on the first male review show ever in Japan, did all the international press.
Wait, time
Yes.
out. Did you just, time out. Did you just say male review in Japan?
I did. I owned the first one ever in Japan. It was rated the best business venture of Japan of 1994. I took dancers and singers off of Broadway, out of the London Royal Ballet. I always had like 1 or 2 Chippendale type guys. They were, so they're American, they were English. And I created this theater, and it was much more of a theater. They did go down to G strings. You didn't see anything, but everything was choreographed. And I end up having 3 theaters and 2 touring companies when I sold it back to my partners and came back to America. Yeah. So I did all the international press, all the marketing. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't calling it that. I just knew what I wanted and how I wanted the theater.
But to say it.
Yeah, to be positioned.
Oh, you know, simple stuff like that.
Little things like that. Just
Yeah,
talking to
easy
me in a
peasy.
Time magazine. Who cares?
Yeah, it's just the stuff you do. Like, I'm running a business. Okay, sure. You need to do that? Let's do it.
In a different country with 2 different books, you know, not fluent in the language, for sure.
Language. All good.
You know, crazy. Came back to America, produced for television. Everyone told me I couldn't do it because I didn't have a communications degree. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I was producing dance segments in France and all over Europe. I own a theater. I know about producing. I know casting. I know all of that. And they're like, yeah, where's your communications degree? And I was like, again, don't need one.
Don't need one. Next.
And end up not needing one and producing for television. And then honestly was doing news stories and just couldn't tell certain segments of people that their stories weren't good enough to make TV when they were dramatic. And that did not sit well with my spirit. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, this part is not for me. And start producing events, designing events and celebrity appearances in large retail stores, then ended up with FUBU as president of marketing, advertising, and PR. And, you know, ran that company, and it just started my other company, KIM Media, in the midst of that. And so everything I've ever done has led me to the Cavu Group. I've always been that advocate for people that may not have had a voice. Clearly, I'm the one that's going to make sure that there's a voice in the room and that they are treated properly. And I'm talking from interns all the way through. It was about making sure that people could be seen. And though I was moving very fast at certain points, like sometimes people are like, I met you then. I was like, I hope I was nice then. It was a moving train. I'm sorry. But, you know, fairness and opportunity was never an option anywhere, whether it just wasn't an option. So, yeah.
And so, okay. So you've had 17 different lives.
Yes.
as one does. And now you have the Cavu Group. And so tell us about that, because this is, also awesome.
Yeah. I created the Cavu Group partially because I was exhausted of hearing diversity and inclusion as buzzwords and hearing how it wasn't working. And I just was like, when I was in fashion and in retail and in corporate, it was called multicultural marketing. There wasn't so maybe a department separated from it, but it was multicultural marketing, then it was mosaic marketing. And I was hired back then to help create those departments and oversee advertising and castings and hiring. And I was just like, why is this a buzzword now? Why are people saying it doesn't work? You have to put work into making it work. And the more I started working with companies as a corporate operations strategist, where I was going into their companies and doing full assessments and asking these questions. Why are these people so unhappy? Where are people of color? Where are Black folks? Why are there no executives that will stand up? And they will listen to me because I was hired to be bought in most of the time. And I just said, you know what, enough. I'm going to build the Cavu Group. And I purposely took out diversity and inclusion in its name and said, it's about expanding beyond your current culture, because it's your mindset, it's your space, it's how you're treating people, the opportunities you're giving people, all of it, communications. And I said, and that's how I'm going to build the Cavu Group. And I'm looking at it through the lens of diversity and inclusion, but I'm looking at it as a full assessment of your company, because just saying you have diversity and inclusion, that means zero. That means you have checked that box. That does not mean you have inclusion and understanding of people.
That's so true. Because, it's interesting. Like, I similarly have never called my agency multicultural, or, focusing on any particular division of people, although people assume because, hey, you're a Black lady, you must run a multicultural agency. And I'm like, no. Here's what I do. I know how to bring really good people together. And guess what? It's usually not 5 white guys. So that's the way you have to look at it. And if you think about it from the side of culture, because culture means so many different things. Absolutely. And there is no one definition of like what it might be, but the lazy response has always been, oh, this means Black. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's
wrong. I agree with you.
And
diversity
now, and now we're in this moment. I'm sure you're busy, Leslie.
I'm busy, but you know what? It was crazy. The first week, 2 weeks, when everyone kind of lifted an eyebrow or lifted 2 eyes and lifted their head and said, I spent the time explaining what Black Lives Matter means, that it is not a bumper sticker. It's bigger than an organization. It is a human being, that my life, and I would have to say, I have to make it very personal for people. My life matters. And you can't make yourself comfortable by saying, oh no, you, Leslie, not you, them, right. They over there. And I'm like, we are all they and them. And now it's time for us to make it we and us, which is the title of my new book. Because it's just like, if you keep saying they and them will stay they and them. But if you're serious about making it we and us, that takes work.
Yeah, it takes work, and it takes an understanding that we're all the same. We're all human beings. And you people assume that because we look different, that we're less than, or we should be pitied. And I feel so bad for you. I'm so sorry you got treated that way. And every time I get an email like that, I want to smack them through my laptop. I'm like, yeah, I don't want your pity. I want the parity. It's
poor people that caught me the first 2 weeks. The poor people. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry. Because I was just like this. What's your commitment? What will you be doing? And this was even friends like, don't.
Like what are y'all doing?
I need action. What is your personal commitment right now? And saying that you and I are friends, though your
does not count
a lot to me, does not count right now.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I just, I think, I think I'm just exhausted with these conversations, so stop asking me about it.
But yet,
Um,
if I don't have them, and that's what everyone said, aren't you tired? And I'm like, of course I'm tired. I'm exhausted, but I am much more tired of the conversations not being had. So that is what fuels me. That if this is the opportunity and the time to have them, then they will be honest and they will be open and they will be blunt and there will be no more sugarcoating. And my goal at the end of the conversation is if that one or two people got the aha moment of something that I've said and can take it back and to put it into action, not only in business, but in their life, because you can't put something in the business you don't do in your own life. And that's the part that the disconnect that keeps happening.
well, yeah, that's the thing for me where like it's same. Like even though I was exhausted from having these conversations, I kept saying, I'm here to talk to you. If you have a question, ask me. I might not get back to you in 30 seconds, but I will get back to you. Because the same deal. It's like, I had one of these really long conversations with an old friend of mine who reached out to me. And I was like floored that he reached out to me of all people. But in having the conversation, you do move mountains. And that mountain could be in the head of that person. We're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Oh, I gotta talk to my dad because the stuff he says, or oh, there is some really active stuff at work. But it's like here's the book. You like, oh yeah, you absolutely have got to do the reading. Like I always say, start with do the reading. Do not ask your Black friend to to tell you everything.
Or your Black
Google
employee.
is your friend. Oh my God, yes, your Black employees. Google is your friend right now. And Google, Goodreads, plenty of places where you can get books that will give you the information so you can be a better white person.
Laura, I said Google needs to actually sponsor all of us right now because I'm like you. I'm like, there's this thing called Google. I don't know if anyone's heard about it, but if you put stuff in, if you ask
it spits stuff out.
It gives you tons of stuff.
Oh my word! But the thing is, I think this is the thing now is that having this conversation where it's like, not only do you need to do the reading, and I know you're gonna read the stuff that's like dark and upsetting and sad, but the flip side is please read the Black joy side of this, because if you only read about how terrible things are for Black people, then you're still going to pity us and think that we're less than. You have to understand that we are fully formed human beings who live a life like you do. There's joy and there is pain. But if you only, because then again, it's like, oh, it's trauma porn. So look how terrible that is. Oh, and you're still removed from the conversation, and you can keep us at arm's length.
Right. Be aware of privilege. And I know that a lot of white people get very nervous with the word privilege because in their head it's money. Privilege is not only money. I said, but be aware that we may, even as far as this pandemic, we are all in this together. We are not equal in this together. And that is part of the conversation, is that the equality of opportunity to even know that there are certain things that are available that you may take for granted or maybe grandfathered in, that by the time someone Black or brown even knows that it was available, it's done. It's a done deal. And that's at the highest levels to an internship. So understand that there is, if you choose to take this on, a responsibility to be aware of who you are in your surroundings.
Just look around.
Yeah. Be uncomfortable. And you got to find some comfort in yourself of being uncomfortable right now.
Well, as I said to someone the other day, it's a privilege to do the reading and not experience it.
Yes.
And when you think of it in those terms, it's like, it is never your existence where you have to worry about a relative of yours or your own self, what you're wearing, how late you are outside wearing X, Y, Z, and what city you might be in and how you might be treated. Like that is not, if that's not in your life experience, then there's no way you're gonna know.
Right. You don't walk into a restaurant and maybe scan the room. And I'm not saying everyone does that, but you have to think of all these things that everyone just takes for granted. Yeah. You don't walk into a store and scan because, and then all of a sudden you feel heat on the back of your neck. Can I help you?
Can I help you? Can I help you? Or I won't help you.
Right.
But Um, it's and you have to understand that that's what it is. Like I got into, I had to set a couple of people on fire yesterday because of the whole Karen thing and about how they were just so upset about being called a Karen, and I was like, really? And they literally called it the K word, and I was like, are you serious? Saying K word? I was like, okay, if Karen's so offensive and you think it's equivalent to the N word, say the N word.
Right.
Say it. Oh.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, or you know what? Or say, how about they? Again, point to they, them. If I called you them, well, how dare you? What do you mean by them? Like, I have a name. Okay. So call someone by their name and stop it. It's not, none of
really,
this brain surgery. No,
none of it. Well, it's also, well, the people want the quick fix. I
that's
think
what I
that's
was
the
about to
biggest
say.
issue. And that's the issue. It's like, listen, the first step in being an ally is realizing this is not about you and your feelings. It's
Right.
like
And you
time
know
to
how I
get
feel about
comfortable.
allies. Like, don't call yourself an ally. That's a badge I give to you. You can be an
Yeah,
advocate, you can be a champion, but an ally means you are doing the work every day of your life. This is what you bring. I don't even know you're doing the work. I'm shocked sometimes when I see what you're doing. That's an ally. So, you know, that word gets thrown around so much. I'm an ally, but what have you done to be an ally? What are you doing? What did you do in the past? What are you going in the future? Say you're a champion or advocate right now.
yeah.
Work your way
Just
up
be
to
a
ally.
champion. Like you know, ally is like is sort of like the crown you want to, is the gold medal that you want to get. But guess what? In order for you to be an ally, you got to train like it's the Olympics to get that gold medal, right?
Yes.
And so you gotta like go each step. You gotta, you know, go to nationals, gotta go to states, and then like, until you can get to that point where yes, you get that gold medal and you are an ally, and that you are awarded that allyship. It is
And
not
stop,
something that you take.
yes. And stop looking for the checklist. Like everyone's listening. What's our checklist? Let me explain to you. Your checklist is,
Oh,
this is your
God.
first one. You're having the conversation. Your next checklist is go study. Well, what book should we read? Whatever works for your spirit. I can give you a list of books. It doesn't mean anything if it doesn't resonate with you. Good. That thing called Google again. See what clicks in your head when you're looking on it. Do that. But there is no, this is not a one size fit all, and this is not going to be fixed. 400 something years is not going to be fixed in the next 2 months.
4 weeks, I swear.
Like everybody's tired. Like I'm, you know, that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing on one of my webinars. Everybody tired now? I mean, you TP? This being an ally and advocate and champion is not for the faint. It's not for the faint at heart.
If it was easy, it would have been done already. So the whole point is this takes work. It's like it takes work.
And I'm
And
here to
if we
work
were,
with you, but you have to do your part as well, like we
no,
said.
you can't pretend like this is just some like quick fix, and that like, well, I think, you know, there's an equation I see that's happening right now where people are equating this to, you know, well, you know, women in business. And so by women in business I mean white women,
Yes.
and how that essentially, that screaming from rooftops and like and getting equity has, and feminism, white feminism, has led to some changes where now you can see lots of leaders who are white women in these positions of power. And I'm like, yeah, but remember how that happened? At the expense of every other woman of color.
Right.
So
Well,
you
I
all
did a
got
topic.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I did a topic. Are white women the face of diversity?
Jesus.
The bottom line is yes, but I also don't want people knee jerking, and I know I keep using that phrase because that's what's happening, and
Mm-hmm.
running to find Black folks to do the work or to put in positions and not give them the budget,
And support.
the staff, the C-suite title. Then if you're going to bring people in, you need to give them the equity and access to succeed, and that means we don't need to be props. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it is, you know, people have reached out, let's see, can you speak, can you do this, can you do that? I know some people don't have money, and I had to call someone out in LA. I'm like, do you know this person? Are they legit? They're calling me to speak like it's crazy. I actually do this for a living. I get paid to do this.
It's my job.
This is my job. I get paid to speak. I get paid to do trainings and teachings. I try to do the best I can of, playing with fees for certain organization at this moment, because if you're going to take that time to really try to do the work, and we've had a relationship, that I want to try to help guide you as far as I can. And you got to keep going. But to just assume that you Googled again, the Black person that can come speak, and not offer a fee is ridiculous. Or you're going to bring someone into your company just because. Don't do it. Do not hire anyone at this moment until you've done a full assessment of why you're bringing them in and what the goals of execution of actionable actions they can actually take on. My soapbox.
And stand on it, and with pride. I mean, this is the thing that I am floored by. It's like, okay, you all will have a gazillion dollars to try and win X award for your company, or try and land X clients for your company, or hit this revenue goal for your company. You will move heaven and earth for those types of things. So why is it you can't move heaven and earth for this really, really important part of your business? Like,
Agreed.
It's the same thing.
Agreed. And now I get the calls, hey, I love to write you up and you can pay this amount of money. And I'm like, what? I've never paid for press. I will never pay for press. I don't care how many plaques you think you're going to give me that's not going to go up on my wall. That is not why I do this. And he was like, I just don't understand why you wouldn't want this opportunity. I was like, have you not seen the Forbes articles and other things? I'm not paying for press. I do no, thank you. Thank you. I don't know how you found me. So I thank you. If Google worked, I'm always appreciative when anyone reaches out, but not paying for a plaque on my wall.
In 2020, in June, are you? Wow.
Yes.
Remarkably tone deaf. I don't understand you people. What's wrong with you?
Because everyone is not on the yellow brick road trying to get to Oz. And everyone needs to understand, everyone's not on this road with us.
No.
And so we have to understand that as well, that there are people that in companies that are going to stay tone deaf, that think they can do anything better, that do not care or do not want to care or do not feel that they need to care for the success of their business or for the success of their life. That whether Black Lives Matter, Spanish Lives Matter, Puerto Rican Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, whatever it is, that where they are is where they're going to be. And you know what? That is okay with me. Stay exactly where you are. Just do not get in the way.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. And so what's your advice to companies now? Like what's sort of the simplest thing that they could do right now? Because we all know this is like training for the Olympics. And so basically, where do you start? Is there, like, what's the thing that you sort of say, like, if you've done nothing, here's where you all have to begin as a company?
Here's my two things. One, you have to sit down as leadership. Here's three things. First, whoever's the leader, right, has to have a conversation with themselves on why this is important and why it's important for the company. Then you have to bring your leadership team in and be able to communicate that as part of the foundation of the company. Not as an add-on, but the foundation. Once you have that settled, then you do need to bring someone in and have a conversation with your staff on race. And you have to communicate and say, you know what, we are not prepared or equipped to have this conversation, but we want to start the conversation. And even though we may even have a D&I department, some of you may not be comfortable speaking with people from internal, let's just have a town hall to even jumpstart the conversation. Let's bring someone that can speak about it, that understands our company culture and what we do, but can be honest with us. And then from there, as that time, you have that person speaking with leadership so that when they're having these conversations, you have already started to think about the commitments that you can make or want to make, and not just run off and start doing things. And understand that your Black and brown employees, but especially your Black employees, are not responsible to tell you how to move right now. The word lead is in leadership. The lead person needs to lead.
And put a real stake in the ground.
Yes. But they have to have conversations with themselves to understand where and why and how they want to do this. And maybe not even how, but that they are committed to doing this. And that's when you start bringing in others. But when leadership just runs because they see their competition, which I heard a lot, they've put out a statement, they've taken Juneteenth off, they've done this. No. Why is this important to the foundation of your business? How will this be ingrained? You know, I worked with someone that I have to give them credit. They immediately took the checkbox if you're a felon off of their application.
Bingo.
People will be interviewed, and everybody goes through a background check, but that box will no longer be there.
Simple stuff.
Yeah.
Simple stuff. Well, you know, I mean, I've been saying this for a bit now, where it's like, listen, if your house is on fire, stop talking about your neighbors. Like, figure out what's happening in your house first, starting at the top, and then working your way through that before you go out and do your statements and all this other jibber jabber. Because also, people again have the Google and have the screenshots. And they will call you, and they will call you out for the foolishness that you all have done. Because I think a lot more people today feel far more emboldened and free to be like, you know what, I am going to call this out. And we've seen this with plenty of newsrooms getting called out and all kinds of companies.
Especially if you're so bold to put out statements and boxes and all kind of stuff that you didn't know what you were doing. And people's like, whoa. You don't even say hello to me when I pass in the hallway. Like,
bingo.
It was a company I was
stuff like that.
And I was like, have you had a conversation with any of your Black employees and brown employees? And they were like, no. I said, don't you think you should have had a conversation not only with them, but with the entire company, saying, bringing someone in before sending out a mandatory email that I would be speaking to them? And they're like, didn't even think about it. I said, and that's the problem. They're sitting back going, didn't even think about it. Nothing's even been said to us. And so, you know, it said, I'm going to call that out when I speak to the company. And they were like, please do. Like, they were open. Once they were open, they were like, please do. Clearly, we're as inclusive as we thought we were in one big family. We've missed the mark. And so I respected that. This is not going to be perfect, everything you do, but you have to be willing to just say, we missed the mark, and not say, but.
We missed the mark, and we're gonna move to make things better.
Right.
Like, or instead of, but here's this Black person we brought in, and look who we elevated from HR. Shut up.
Yeah, no. Every company I worked with, I said, let me explain to you how I got here. This was not a Google search. And people just start laughing. I'm like, they did not Google search and say, bring a Black chick in from New York that does diversity and inclusion. I'm here 9 out of 10 because this was a referral from your PR agency who I've worked with for years, your marketing agency that I've worked for years, from people that knew my work. And I already knew about you because I've heard of them speak about you as a company and as a client. And so it was natural. It was a natural bring in other people that we know that understands. And I said, and that's also a first step. You know, that you ask around, who do you know that's doing the work that is trusted, really doing the work? Because everyone is not doing the work, you know, and it's been proven, or you wouldn't have the black boxes and the Juneteenths and the statement, and you click a button and a white baby pops up from your Black Lives Matter. I was dumbfounded. Like, you sent people to your website. Come on.
Oh, the simple stuff. Like, come on, y'all. It's
Full
not brain
assessment, kid.
surgery.
Full assessment right now. Companies need full assessments.
From top to bottom, under every nook and cranny. It's
Advertising,
just
PR, your notices, who's the reception, how's it smell, what's going on, like just all of it. It's,
the lunches you serve, the whole 9 yards. So
uh,
when we think about all of this and where we are in, June 2020, what would you tell 25-year-old Leslie?
oh, I was rocking back then. No, seriously, had already seen the
Well,
world.
clearly you had 18 careers by then.
I was already in other countries. This was already like, when people say, hey, I'm the only one in the room, I'm like, I've been the only one in countries. What are you talking about? I've always been the only one. I've always had to, I hate the word maneuver, but maneuver, I always understood because I was usually the first Black dancer ever hired for that theater. The first Black dancer that's ever been on this TV show. That has been my entire life. So my 25-year-old, let's say, I think the only thing I would have said is maybe on the day off, explore the countries you were in a little bit more. But I was also always dance captain. I was always the one in charge. So I was always with management and I was always in between. My 25-year-old Leslie, I'm excited about when I think back. I was blessed then and I'm blessed now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, as well. I think that's the thing. It's like, when you look back and you're like, yeah, I've always been this woman.
If anything, I've toned down, and then so people that like laugh because they're like, "This is toned down," and it's like, this is the older, maybe a little bit more thoughtful,
more thoughtful, a little bit.
in my approach than the seriously. No, come on, for real. No, you need to move right now. I may say seriously. I need you to think about moving right now. That's my two differences from then to now.
That's the only difference. That's a mild one.
It's a mild one. But you know what? I've always been focused. I've always known what I've wanted. I've never been scared to jump on a plane and go to a different country or take opportunities that were put in front of me. When I left the country, I left and never came back 10 and a half years later. I was supposed to be on a 6-month contract in one country and just never came back.
As one does when the opportunity presents itself.
Absolutely. So I think I would tell the other 25-year-old is to look at the opportunities and not only for what's in front of you, but the experience that you can receive from it and take it.
Thank you for saying that, because I think sometimes folks, especially the younger ones these days, where it's like, oh, I have to have my entire life solved and perfect by the time I'm 29.9. So before I'm 30, married, 1.5 kids, 100,000 Instagram followers, have traveled to Bali, and have found myself. And you're like, what?
Yeah, no. First tattoo at 40, start boxing at 40, became won a belt by 42 in boxing, like got my back to college, I've started different careers and different opportunities because I woke up and said, that's what I want to do.
But also, this is a journey. It is a journey, and it's a journey, not a race. And I think there's a lot of, especially now, I think there's a lot of pressure with folks assuming that because we've been home in the pandemic, that we will, assess and think of where they are, as opposed to being grateful for all the things they've achieved and understanding how awesome they are, but also realizing that there's still a big, wide, amazing world out there for you. And you can challenge and excite yourself in all different kinds of ways.
The only person you should be competing against is yourself.
Period. Full stop.
Full stop. And that's not even competing, assessing. Assess yourself. Does it work for you? If it doesn't work for you, why doesn't it work for you? And how can you change it? Now that's so easily said than done. But if people haven't taken the time to really look within and look around, especially where we are today, then that's something you have to address as well. Why haven't you taken that time? You didn't have to write the next novel. You didn't have to, start a podcast and webinars and run up, but who do you, what do you like about you? And what's my strengths and what's my weaknesses? And how do I want to get there or not get there, you know? And just be focused on understanding, like you said, this is a journey and everyone's journey is different. So
That's okay. It's all good. So you have 11,000 things you're doing on any given day. What in the world do you do for your self-care?
oh, I'm a gym rat, which of course is now my living room rat. Uh,
Living room rat is delightful.
my living room rat is like with my stepper, and I have tons of equipment at home. I enjoy working out. That is what I do for myself. I do sit down and be quiet. I still love reading and researching is something that I enjoy. So it's not like part of work for me. I love documentaries. I am someone that is faithful. So my faith is important to me. That is not about going in or out of a church. It's being able to center myself in my faith and be grateful and thankful for every single little thing. And to now my joy is making sure I tell the people that are important to me that they are important to me and not wait for that. So, you know, I like a good laugh. So, you know, a lot of people don't always, because everyone thinks I'm always so serious, which I but I love a good laugh, and to be around people or a phone call that I make someone laugh and they make me laugh. Look, when you get older, it gets real simple.
You're like, this is so much simpler. This is not helicopter. I swear, it's not.
You know, yeah, I don't need to run out and go to a restaurant and this, that, and the other. I've thought about some of the workers at restaurants that you go to all the time. And I'm like, God, I hope they're okay. I wonder if they're going to open up. You know, that's part of my blessings, but I'm blessed enough to be able to go to think of that. And like, I hope they're good. I hope they can make it happen. And, you know, you just be in the moment of gratefulness. No.
That's beautiful and so true. Be in this moment, for goodness sake. We will all get through it.
Because this is not the new normal. We don't know what that is yet. We're in a new moment.
Just a new moment, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to be in this and be like, what in the world? Yeah, because this is new.
Look, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, companies were dismantling their diversity and inclusion departments. And I'm like, how am I having this conveation now? A week,
3 weeks ago.
And I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Like,
oh my, it is that's what I'm saying. It's like, when I think of a year ago this time, I was in Cannes, and we were just wrapping up the biggest D&I event that I've ever been on the Cannes Lions. A huge success. And I remember we were like, I think today was the day that we went to the helicopter to Saint Tropez to kind of enjoy and have a day off after everything we've done. Right. And I remember thinking like, this is wow. And to think now, a year later, just a year later, the entire world stopped, started to turn back on, and now has stopped and turned in a whole new direction. The entire world. Yes. When there were Black Lives Matter protests in Syria,
over 18 countries.
You know, we are not a moment. We're not in a moment. We are in this movement, but we are not in this movement singularly. Finally, we are in this moment together, and you know, we're not the only ones shouting from the rooftops, and that's one progress, but also a testament to how things can change, how quickly things can change.
Yes. And you have to be, and no one was prepared. Let's just be honest. Nope. No one was prepared for this. So I say you have to be able to bob and weave. You know, take my you need to be able to bob and weave, because life on a good day can throw a whole bunch of punches and curves at you. And sometimes you need to just sit down. You know, I had a friend that says, well, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I said, well, that's a privilege and a luxury. I had to figure out very quickly, because this is what I do for a living. So I needed to put my feelings on side and I needed to get to work and figure out the best position. So you have to know when to sit down, when to stand up, when to move to the side, when to listen, and when to act. But you have to be ready to do something in this life.
Oh, you just gotta move. Like, now is not the time to be like, let me think. No, move. Um, so, as part of this series of episodes I'm doing that happened during coronavirus, I can't even call it a series of episodes now because it's going to be the rest of the year.
So
I guess I'll just accept that at this point. I always ask my guests, do they have a give and or an ask to the audience? And I feel like you're probably going to have both since you're part pastor and part boss lady.
my give is be good to yourself during this time. I want to give permission to people to be good to themselves at this time. I guess my ask is for people to be good to themselves and others at this time, to be aware that, like I said before, that we are together in this, but we are not equal in this, and that empathy, which is not sympathy, it is understanding of someone else's feelings along the journey, is what you need for yourself and others at this time.
Well, that's just wonderful. And I can't say anything more, but that's exactly what it is. At this time, it is about empathy. That's all it is. Well, Leslie, I could just talk to you for hours on end. But thank you so much for joining me on the show today and just giving wisdom for days to the audience. It means so much, especially in this time where I think a lot of folks are confused in how to move forward, and I think you just broke it down in brass tacks. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for the invite. I appreciate speaking with you, and always look forward to speaking with you.
Awesome. And so we'll put the info on the show notes so you can read more about all the really crazy, amazing things that Leslie does. And that is our show.